trying to raise your kids a certain way, but you got other family members that don't completely respect the way you're doing it. Cass?
Man, it's so hard when you become a parent, and this is something you don't really hear about. When you decide to raise your kids differently from how you were raised, and it's not to say how I was raised was bad at all. Like, I had a lovely childhood, grateful to my parents, great relationships. They didn't do anything wrong. I'm just making different decisions with additional knowledge.
And that's what I wanted to point out. I think because now there is more research, more studies, additional knowledge. There's this thing called the internet now. It's a different ballgame, and you pivot when you get new information, or you should anyway. Instead of being stuck doing things a certain way, once you get new information, let's go ahead and normalize. It's okay to change your mind and do things differently.
But it's so hard to draw boundaries with your own family, especially your immediate family, without sounding like a nag or a controlling person or insulting. And there were 3 specific instances that happened when my family came to visit recently. And I picked one of them to sort of put the kibosh on. But the other 2, it nagged at me. And let me be clear, these things happening individually, not a big deal. Literally not a big deal in the grand scheme of things. It just doesn't align with the values I have as a parent. And so I let them slide because I didn't want to be every couple of hours, be like, we don't do that in this house. We don't do that. And just kind of put a damper on the whole visit. But there's one specifically with my daughter. We teach her bodily autonomy. And if she's ever being tickled or held and she says, put me down or stop, we stop immediately. You don't need to say please. You don't need to ask twice. It is your body. Unless you're in imminent danger, if you say stop, we stop. And I had a family member who had picked up my daughter and was tickling her. She said, put me down. And the family member said, no, and kept tickling her. And inside, I was clawing at me because I was my daughter does not want to be touched. But she was laughing and they were playing, and then she put her down. So I didn't say anything, right? I'm monitoring the situation. Another time, we're at the table, we're eating. Hazel finished her food and everyone's like, great job finishing your food. That's just me with my food issues. We don't praise when somebody finishes your food. You eat if you're hungry, and then if you're not, you don't. You listen to your tummy. Does it say you're full, or does it say you're hungry? And they kept saying oh, we're going to get your carrots. You better eat them, and talking about, oh, Papa ate too much chicken. He's going to gain weight. You'll look like me. And I'm I don't want those ideals in her, but I let it slide. And the only one I nipped in the bud was negative self-talk, because somebody was saying, oh, I look so old and haggard in this light. And I'm we don't do any negative self-talk around our kids, because I don't want to put those ideas in her head. But it just really highlighted how different my parenting is in different areas from how I was raised. And I didn't know how to have conversations with my family without making them feel bad.
Yeah.
And the person I actually pointed out was hey, I just want to let you know, we really don't do negative self-talk around Hazel, because we don't want to put ideas in her head that she should feel ashamed or bad about herself, or, that this is something she should look out for in the future. And this family member, it was literally after they had said, oh, I look so old and haggard in this light. They're like, what are you talking about? What negative self-talk? And I'm you literally just called yourself old and haggard, and you are neither, but you don't even realize you're doing it. So I'm just curious, what is the best way to draw boundaries in a nice way without making it seem hey, I'm not trying to insult you and your parenting skills or how you live your life. This is not what we're doing at my house.
Yeah, whoever has the answer to that, I would like to know it as well.
How do I say this without insulting?
For us, it has to do with food. And treats and sugar and things of that nature.
I wonder, Cass, you are very particular in the way that you parent, right? So I wonder, because it could get, as a guest, probably overwhelming if you keep hitting them with the way that you are raising Hazel, because it's not traditional to them. Because it could get to that point, can't you just address it with Hazel when they take off? Almost do it retrospectively?
She's too young.
Yeah, she's pretty young. And I agree with you. That's why I only picked one thing, the most important thing to me. And the other stuff, I kind of adjusted while they were there. So if they were great job on finishing your food, Hazel, I'll be I would jump in and say, hey, do you feel full? Do you need more food, or are you good? We listen to our bodies. So I tried to course correct a little bit. And again, these individual instances, really not a big deal, but it's just a larger picture. And it is so difficult because she is so young, and when they're that young, they're impressionable. So you hear someone say, "Oh, if I eat more chicken, I'm gonna get fat." That sticks with them at that age. That's not really. Those are big adult conversations or conversations for older kids, and she doesn't have all the foundational information she has to have that convo. But again, I don't want to sound like a nag. Like it's such an interesting problem to have, and I don't know how to navigate it.
Well, just keep your parents away from her entirely. No convo, don't come over, or anything that you're going to say to my daughter. You need to run through me first. That kind of thing.
Is there something to be said too that no?
See, it seems like no matter how you present it,
It's a rock and a hard place, man.
the person is probably going to take a little bit of offense to it, even if you don't mean it.
Yeah.
I looked at it as a little bit as, hey, everyone's going to have different views and she'll experience them in the real world. So at least she gets to do here safely with people she loves. So it's not bad to have that exposure. For the bigger conversations and stuff that really sticks, if you've ever had to course correct like any member of your family with your kids, you'll know that is a very difficult conversation, and it definitely changes the dynamic of your relationship with your parents or your family members as well when they start to see you really in that parent role. And it's an interesting evolution because when you have kids, you're like, I'm a parent now, I'm a mother now, but you never think about how that changes your relationship with your own parents and your own family.
Here is Tiffany. Good morning. You're part of the Bert Show.
Hi, good morning. I just wanted to say that, Cassie, how you raise your children is entirely up to you. No one gets to tell you what you do or don't do. And I don't care if it's your parents or your best friend or whoever. It's your kids, your rules, period.
Thank you. And I want to be clear, my parents weren't giving me any grief at all. Like, they roll with the punches, they're fine with it. I want to respect them, and I don't want them to feel bad when I say, I didn't like how you did this. We're going to do it this way.
You're trying to look out for your daughter's well-being, and you're also trying to look out for your parents' feelings. So you find yourself in this hard place of like, okay, that's not how we conduct, that's not how we conduct ourselves in our home around Hazel. So how do I let them know without making them feel bad about themselves for doing it?
Yeah, because they really, in the grand scheme of things, didn't do anything wrong. It's not like they made an egregious error. It's just we do things differently.
Hey, Elizabeth.
Hey, y'all. So what my family has done is just let it ride for now because they don't live in the city, right? So let it ride until they're going to come back to visit. And before they visit and you make all the plans and everything else, just send a text or an email just saying, hey, with the world opening back up and everyone trying to find their own sense of normalcy, we just want to let you know that these are our house rules. And we want to make sure that any visitor that comes to stay with us aligns with those rules. And we just want to make sure that we're all on the same page and we can have a super wonderful time together.
Thank you for calling. Why'd you look at it like that, Kristen?
I think that is lovely in theory, but I think you have to know your family and how that's going to be received. Because I know some of my family that would not be received well.
No.
Unfortunately.
And like I said, Cass, your particular would be like a 20-page novel.
No, it wouldn't.
Here are all the rules in the house, Mom and Dad.
For the record, I agree with everything you said if that makes you feel... Not that you need to be made feel better, but...
Thank you. And for the rules, I'll laminate them and put them in every room so that we can forget them.
Oh, instead of opening, when you go to a hotel and you open the dresser and there's a Bible, there's just a list of Cassie's rules.
The Bert Show.
Like what you just watched, you can get more of The Bert Show on your favorite podcast platform. Wherever you listen to your podcast, you can find us. I don't know what any of these buttons do, by the way.